It's delaying. Okay. Yeah, today is Wednesday, the 27th of January 2021. I want to welcome you to another exciting edition of ALOUD with Iyke Ofuebo. So today I'll be having a wonderful guest in the house. I will be talking about a very interesting topic which is titled Changing Outcomes. Changing Outcomes. And I have my guest, her name is Carol Boston. So I'm going to get her on here live so we'll do justice to our topic of discourse today. So, but let me just say a little about my guest of today. She is also known as the Queen of Reframe. She will come to tell us more about that. Okay, she helps to reframe any challenge anyone can, and she helped to triple income in record times. And then she has over 27 years of experience as a sales expert in Fortune 100 companies like AT&T, Sprint, and Paychex. She is also a professional tennis player and she's known to be relentless in supporting her clients. So we're going to hear more and more and more from her. She's an international speaker, and in fact, she also do a lot of conversation with various people around the globe. So we're going to hear more about her. So please let me invite her to join us right now. So just give me a second. I will get Carol to be with us. Okay, so let's make welcome. Um, Carol, please just maybe, yeah, yeah. Oh, let's welcome Carol Boste. Yeah,
How are you?
I'm cool. I'm fine. Nice to have you here.
It's good to be
Thank,
here.
thank you for showing up. You know, we wanted to do this last year, but we couldn't.
Yes.
Yeah, the schedule was so tight. So thank you for making our time to be here today. But you know what? I was trying to do something. You know, I've been watching your some of your conversations, and I
Yes.
like your intro. I like your intro. In fact, I'm in love with your intro. Let me just do one. Let me do one. Okay. You start with hello, everyone. Welcome to Carol's Confidence and Courage Corner. It is another beautiful day here in sunny South Carol, Florida. I actually wish I was outside. It's about 65 degrees, not a cloud, not a cloud in the sky, not a breeze. That's all the show bears come. So, you know what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to mimic you. I always I always enjoy it while you do that. Maybe you do that for us. Because I didn't do it
Okay.
well. I actually practiced it, but it didn't work out for me. So you just give us a little intro on that. I just want that, just a little. How is it in Florida?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Carol's Courage to Confidence Corner. It is a gorgeous day today here in sunny South Florida. It is 81 degrees. There is not a cloud in the sky. It is a Chamber of Commerce day. This is why all the snowbirds from Canada and up north come down to South Florida at this time of the year. How's that, Ike?
Wow. I'm going to practice that. In my next conversation, I will do just that. You know,
Okay.
it's so fascinating, so interesting. Okay, let me use that to listen to you while you do that. You know, I've been listening to you for some time, and whenever I just come in contact with your show, I'm just glued to it because of the voice, the passion, the energy behind everything you do. I so love it. Thank you once again. Right. So you are known as a refrain queen.
Yes.
But before we go there, maybe you put that to part of what I will ask you now. You just tell us a little more about yourself because we are talking about changing outcomes.
Yes.
Okay, so people want to know why must it be you that can share this topic? So please just tell us a little more about yourself.
Absolutely. One of the things I talk about, Ike, is that sometimes you have to trust in someone else's vision for you until you can believe it for yourself. And that has happened to me three very pivotal times in my life. One, It's how I got a tennis scholarship to a major university here in the United States. I went to LSU. It's in Louisiana. I'm a LSU Fighting Tiger. I had a great tennis career. I then went on to play professionally for a while in between injuries. And then there was an opportunity back in the spring of 1987. I was going through a divorce. I knew I didn't want to be a tennis teaching professional my entire life. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And then my car caught on fire and the insurance company wouldn't pay for it. So I called my dad because he had been in the insurance business for 35 years. Now you got to know, my dad is really Southern. So I called him up and I'm telling him my story. And this is what he says. He says, now, Carol, you know, I'm not in that kind of insurance. I can't help you with that. But if you come home, I got somebody to help you get a new car. So there I was in the spring of 87, going through a divorce, went home, got a new car, and went to Dallas, Texas. And I lived with my second cousin. She was head of personnel for Neiman Marcus, which is a big, famous store, expensive store. And she taught me how to wear the pearls and the navy suit and the pantyhose. And this was at a time, Ike, in the United States when the government had just broken up the monopoly of AT&T and all the baby bells, all the telecommunication. So competition was fierce.
Yeah.
And I got interviewed by a company called Metro Media Communications. And the lady who offered me the job said, will you come in tomorrow and meet my boss, the vice president? And I said, sure. So I go in the next day. She interviews me. She kind of sits back and looks at me and she says, great. I'll see you in Miami in a week. And I said, no, you won't. Now, mind you, I needed a job. I said, look, I'm interviewing in Dallas. You have an office in Dallas. My friends from the tennis tour are in Dallas, and my family lives 3.5 hours away. I'm going to work in Dallas. Pretty ballsy of me, huh? And she just smiled at me and she said, I need somebody really strong in Miami in a week. And I said, how do you know I'm strong? I've never done this before. And listen to what she said to me, Ike. She said, just trust me and be there in a week. So for the second time in my life, I trusted someone else's vision for me.
Yeah.
Until I could believe it for myself. So I got in my car and I drove from Dallas, Texas to Miami, Florida. It takes 2 days to do that. And that led to a more than 26-year successful career in sales for Fortune 100 companies. And there I was, 26 years doing this. I could do it in my sleep, Ike. I had sold over $70 million in revenue. I walked across the stages. I got the awards. I thought I had it made. And then I got a call one day and they told me, we're cutting your territory by 80%. And I said, 80%? I've been building this territory for 6.5 years. I thought they were setting me up to fail. Now, I was a weird salesperson. I love large corporate structure, and I'm a rule follower, which is not true for most salespeople. So a friend of mine whispered in my ear about an opportunity at a really small company. So I went on the interview. They interviewed me twice. They gave me the job. They doubled my base salary plus commissions, and they gave me a director title. I could just see the potential, right?
Yeah.
So I negotiated a vacation up front in my contract because I'd already paid for it. So there I was, 6 weeks into my job, on vacation in beautiful Albuquerque, New Mexico. Ike, if you ever come to the United States, you got to come in October and come to Albuquerque, New Mexico, to the world's largest hot air balloon festival. Hundreds and hundreds of balloons in the sky. It's incredible, all sizes and shapes and colors. You just got to come. Come meet me there next October. Come meet us there.
I'll be there.
So there I was on vacation, and I was doing what I thought at the time a good employee should do. I was staying in touch with my boss, the CEO of my new company. Now, I don't advocate that for my clients anymore. I tell my clients, honey, when you're on vacation, you're on vacation. So my boss, the CEO, sent me an email, asked my opinion on something, and I replied right back. And then I waited. And I waited because he usually replies right back, and he didn't. So we went out, we enjoyed our day. We came in that night, and ding, there goes my phone. Carol Boston, you've got mail. And here's what it said. It said, Carol, comma, that's what you really think? And it had 5 question marks behind it. And then it said, don't bother coming into this office on Monday. When your vacation is over, you're done here.
Mm.
I was like, what? I just got fired. I don't get fired. Wait a minute. I got fired in an email for giving an opinion I was asked for.
Wow.
So I came back to Florida and I had an interview the very next day. And I was flown all over this country. I had had a very successful career. I couldn't get a job. Sometimes 3 and 4 interviews deep. And I thought, how ironic. I sold $70 million for somebody else, and I can't close a deal to get myself a job.
Oh.
So faith is my foundation. That's where I always go. So many, many months into this, I had spent my 401k because I was determined to get a job. Why was that? Because that's what was familiar. I was trying to stay in what was familiar, and I saw myself as this corporate salesperson. That's all I knew. So in my prayer time, I said to God, God, I really did yell. I was at that point. And I said, look, you created me. You know I don't want to own my own business. I am not cut out to be an entrepreneur. You got to help me find a good job. And literally 2 weeks to the day from that prayer, I got an email out of the blue from a woman I met one time out of town at a conference. And guess what she did? She gifted me a $3,500 ticket to go to Los Angeles to study at Guerrilla Business School. Now, I tell people my God has a sense of humor because I just told him I didn't want to own my own business, and he's given me a free ticket to Guerrilla Business School, which was a foundational school for entrepreneurs, right? So I figured what I was doing wasn't working, and I don't know what I don't know, so off I went. And that began to put me on the path to where I am today. The very first thing I learned in Los Angeles, and it's going to be the title of my next book, you can't read the label when you're inside a jar. And we're all in a jar, right? We can't see out of our, that's why we all need a good coach. I mean, think about it. You probably already know this, but at one point, Oprah Winfrey had 4 coaches.
Yeah.
And when someone said, why did you have 4 coaches? She said, well, no one's an expert in all 4 quadrants of my life. And I want to know that I'm living my entire life at the highest level, right? The next thing I learned was about empowering questions. And that is why I'm called the Queen of Reframe. When I understood empowering questions, this is back in 2015, I was determined to master them. And I will tell you that very few people know how to truly use them. I'm going to give your audience a couple of tips because they change outcomes. They create new opportunities. Okay. So what I'm sorry? Hmm. I know there's a little bit of a delay. So what empowering questions do is they help you reframe, hence the name Queen of Reframe. They help you reframe from focusing on what isn't working, and they open you up to opportunities that you've never considered, you've never thought of. Here's a caveat with empowering questions. When you put them out to God and the universe, and I get my clients to do this out loud several times a day, it's important. The caveat is you are not to sit around and try to figure out the answer. You're telling God and the universe, I'm open.
Yes, so go ahead. Tell us more about you being the Reframe Queen, yeah.
So being the Queen of Reframe, I help my clients reframe from what isn't working and open them up to possibilities. And in doing that, it allows us to see success more quickly, celebrate more often, and easily make mid-course corrections. Many of my clients, I have doubled and tripled their income. And it's due to not only empowering questions, but there's several other tools that work synergistically with these empowering questions that allow for this to happen. So I'm going to give your audience something very powerful right now. That's a writer downer. You want to write this down, Ike. An empowering question never, never, ever starts with the word why. When you ask a question with why, it brings in defensiveness, which brings in the ego, which brings in emotions. And when emotions go up, intelligence goes down. It's true for every human being. Would you agree? I know there's a little bit of a delay. Uh-oh, Ike, you disappeared. Is it just me? Am I still on Facebook? Am I still on live? I can keep talking. It says I'm in the show. Anyway, maybe perhaps I'm still on. I don't know. I know that there were some big latency problems on the internet. For those of you who don't know, Ike is in Lagos, Nigeria, and I'm in South Florida, a long way away. And so sometimes there's internet technology challenges. We had trouble just getting on the first time. We had to get off and get back on because it wouldn't stream. So perhaps he's going to hop back on and join me. There he is. There he is. There's Ike. Did you hear all that, Ike?
Okay, we are listening. Yeah, my internet has been fluctuating, but go ahead. Our listeners can hear you.
Okay. So I had just shared that empowering questions never start with why, because they bring in defensiveness, the ego, and emotions. And when emotions go up, intelligence goes down. So I'm going to give you a couple examples. Let's say that your child, or perhaps your parents, did this to you. You came home from school and you didn't have all the good grades on your report card that they wanted you to have. Like I say, I know this happened to me. My dad said to me, "Why did you get a B on your report card?" Now, mind you, I had gotten 5 A's. And so what do you think I did? I started defending my position. I said, "But Dad, I got 5 A's." He goes, "That's not what I asked you. Why did you get a B on your report card?" So I defended myself again. I said, "But David," that was my older brother, "he got 2 C's and a D." Now I want you to look at the pattern of this conversation. It made me defensive. It didn't help the conversation. So if my dad had looked at me and said, "Carol, what one thing," because when you're asking empowering questions, you want to be specific. If my dad had said, "What one thing could you do differently next semester to improve upon that grade?" Think about the conversation we could have had then. There's no shame. There's no blame. There's no defensiveness, no ego. It would have given me an opportunity to think about one thing I could do differently to improve on that grade. And I want you to think about it. If you're doing that to your child, if your child has the opportunity to figure out and give you an answer, they're way more likely to do it. Let me give you another example. Same thing if your teenager maybe comes home late from curfew, breaks the curfew. Most parents, I know mine did it, "Why are you late?" Right? Instead of saying, "Why are you late?" which is not empowering at all, and it's not going to get you the information that you want, perhaps if you said to that child, "What one thing would have to happen for you to keep your commitment to the curfew?" Think about that question. Think about it, folks. You're going to have much better conversations with your children and your teenagers. They're not going to be arguments. Empowering questions take the emotion out of the conversation. That's important. They help you get others on the same page as you much more quickly and more easily. That's important. Yes? So I hope you wrote that down. Start looking at your languaging. Empowering questions never, ever, ever start with the word why. about being the queen of reframe. I was on Zoom with a client, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And at the very end of our session, she gave me this challenge she was having. And I said, would you be open to looking at it from this perspective? And I gave her a whole new perspective, right? Let me see if you're messaging me there on Facebook. Are you still messaging me? Are we good? Okay, apparently we're still on and we're good. So I'm back with you on StreamYard. This is good. Where was I? Empowering questions. Oh, I gave my client a way to reframe a challenge. We reframed it very quickly. You can bring me just about any challenge and I can reframe it for you. I say in less than 20 minutes. Often it happens in less than 2 minutes. I don't want to guarantee that though. But for this particular client, I reframed it immediately. She has been ecstatic ever since. She said it has completely changed her viewpoint on several things, and she's able to come back to that day after day when she gets challenged. How many of you would like to have a tool in your toolbox so that you know you're never stuck? Come on. I help clients get unstuck. How many of you out there stuck? Put it in the chat. I haven't been able to see anything in the chat. If you're out there and you're listening live, let me know you're out there live. Let Ike know that there's engagement here, right? This is good stuff.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah. So you go ahead. I think we've been having network issues down here. So just, I know you'll be talking about empowering questions
Yes.
on how to change outcomes. So just go ahead. We are listening.
Okay. Just want me to keep teaching, huh? Empowering questions.
Just,
Yes, go ahead.
okay. When you talked about asking empowering questions in order to change, to open you up. So can we liken that to be giving yourself the opportunity to think outside the box? Because when you are inside the box, you begin to see the regular things you've been seeing happening to you. So those empowering questions can actually open your mind, then you begin to see and think outside the box. Can we think
Absolutely.
it towards that direction?
Absolutely. And I said earlier, the caveat is though, Ike, is that you're not to sit around and try to figure out the answer. Because remember, you're in a box, you're in a jar, and our brains are finite. So what you're saying to God and the universe is, I'm open to seeing, hearing, saying, or doing something I've never thought of before. It creates what I call Oprah aha moments, right?
Okay.
They're about getting curious. They're about pondering. They're about opening awareness. So yes, that's exactly what they do. I had a client. She
So
and I.
can you give us a, okay, go ahead.
I was going to give you a quick client example. She's an amazing dog trainer.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
She's known as the dog mystic, right? She and her boyfriend do amazing things with. She's a healer, an energy healer with dogs, and they do doga, which is dog yoga, which is really cool. So when she first came to see me to work with me, this is 3 years ago. I had an office at the time, and she was on time. But by the fourth visit, she was very, very late. Now I'm a hugger, so she came in. I gave her a big hug. I sat her down, and I said, "Get out your pen and paper. We cannot let this coaching opportunity pass us by." And she kind of looked at me with this grin, and we don't usually start like that, but it was important. So here's the first thing I had her write down. I want your audience to write this down. How I do
Okay.
anything is how I do everything. How I do anything is how I do everything. Now, I want you to think about when you have showed up late to a meeting or an event. The first thing that we do as human beings is what? We want to give a defensive story about why we're late. So she started to give me a story. And I said, no, 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 this is not about you
Right.
being late. It's not about you being late. And she said, it's not? I said, no. I said, this is about where else, and I want you to listen carefully to how I phrase this question. I said, it's about where else in your life are you not showing up for you? And she looked at me, she says, what are you talking about? I said, write it down. Where else in your life Are you not showing up for you? You pay me in advance for my time. I'm not giving you money back. And I'm not giving you extra time because I have a schedule of clients that I keep. So she wrote it down and she looked at me and she said, is this my homework for the week? I said, honey, it's your homework ad nauseum. I want it on your dashboard, your mirror, your refrigerator, in your car. I want you to say that out loud to God and the universe 6 to 8 times a day, but don't try to figure it out. So she agreed to do that. Fast forward a few weeks later, we're working on one of her business challenges, and all of a sudden her eyes fly open and she looks at me and I said, what's up? She said, that's another place that I'm not showing up for me. And I said, exactly. And that awareness began to show her areas that we were able to change her habits, put the leadership tools and principles that I teach into place. And guess what? We doubled her income in 6 months.
Wow. Wow.
But if I had said to her, why are you late? She would have gotten defensive. We would have never had that conversation. She would have never had the awareness of that empowering question and would not have been able to open up and impact other areas of her life. So yes, empowering questions, they're tremendous. They create great results.
Yeah, something just came. How do one develop those empowering questions? Because it's not easy to just do that. So there must be an art of how to develop those kind of questions. So
To
how
really,
can one develop such empowering questions that can, yeah,
well, the first thing they could do is they can work with me because I've been asked to put on, a workshop. It's at least a 3-day workshop, 2.5 to 3 days to really begin to understand. And even then, you're not going to master them. Because the first thing that we would do, we would look at the goals that you wanted to achieve, and we would create an empowered statement. An empowered statement always has embedded presuppositions. Way too much detail, too deep for today. But then we would take that statement and we would begin to craft
okay,
questions around it. So you're going to craft a question, like I gave you some examples of my client. I gave you some examples. Remember, you want them to be questions of curiosity, and you don't ever want to ask why.
yeah,
Why is not going to get you the answer that you want. So I gave you the example of what one thing. You could take that phrase right there and begin to look at how can I craft questions in different areas of my life with just that one example. I mean, honestly, people pay me a lot of money to do this kind of work, and then they turn around and make a lot of money. That's how powerful it is. So you could take that one phrase, what one thing, and let's say you want to improve your personal relationship with your spouse or your significant other. You could get up every day and say,
right, okay,
you could get up every day and say, what one thing that I'm not doing now could I do to truly show my spouse how much I love them today? I want you to think about that question, because often in relationships, whether it's with our children or our parents or our spouses, we get into these routines of, they know I love them. I don't have to tell them I love them. They know I love them. I don't have to show them. Yes, you do. Right? You got to keep that relationship on fire. And if you got up every day and said, what one thing that I'm not currently doing, that if I were to do it, would show my spouse or significant other just how much I love them today. I want you to notice that I'm always putting a time frame on it, today, right? Now, you're not going to sit around and try to figure out the answer. You're going to continue to ask this question of God and the universe, and you're saying, I'm open. Because if it's something you already knew, you'd be doing it. It's something that you're not doing. You could use it in a sales. You could use it in a sales situation.
okay,
I help all of my clients with sales, right? That's a huge piece of my background. 26 years of successful sales in Fortune 100 companies. You could say, here's the thing about empowering questions, Ike. They're similar to what Stephen Covey talks about in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. But there's one difference. So Stephen Covey says, seek first to understand and then be understood. But
Yeah.
when it comes to empowering questions, that second part is not about you trying to get someone else to understand you. It's about you
You understand you.
understanding you. So think about how I phrase.
That's powerful.
Yes, think about how I phrased that question. So same thing. Let's look at a sales situation. Let's say you know that 3 days from now you have a big sales meeting and you really want to close the deal. You could craft empowering questions around that one goal. I want to close this deal, and you'll name the deal, name the amount of money, be very specific, and you start asking yourself these questions. What one thing can I say to inspire them to move forward with me today? How can I show up so they can hear me? Those are two very powerful questions that you could take into a sales situation. These questions allow you to discern the dominant learning language of your prospect. When I was speaking at American Express, they hired me 6 times back in 2019 to come in and teach and do these trainings. And I divided the HR team into 2 groups, and I gave them an exercise to do. And I was going back and forth, and I was listening. And there was a young lady in this one group who was very frustrated. Her job in the exercise was to get the gentleman who was playing the CFO to agree to move her proposal forward. And she was not being successful. And I was listening, and I said to her, "May I help you?" And she said, "Yes." So I looked at this young man and I asked him, "How would it feel if blah, blah, blah?" And he sat up and he goes, "That would feel great." Now she is totally ticked off and frustrated. She goes, "But I've been asking him." And I said, "No, you kept asking him, how does it sound?" But he's been telling you his dominant learning language, right, is kinesthetic. He's touchy-feely. So as soon as I said, "How would it feel?" I spoke into his dominant language. So all of a sudden, he's on board. So you can use these questions to understand your prospect better so that you can speak into their dominant language. Empowering questions allow you to get other people on the same page as you much more quickly and more easily. Does that make sense?
A whole lot of sense. So powerful, so powerful. In fact, I was just thinking on there are people who had their New Year's resolution this year, and we call it most people say understand when we say New Year's resolution, but most times we want to call it goals. A lot of people had goals 2020, 2019, and at the end of the year, December, they did nothing. So can we just focus our mind on someone who didn't get his goal in 2020? This is 2021. I have a financial goal of having $1 million in my account. Last year, I couldn't make up to $100,000 as my goal, but this year I've given myself $1 million goal in my account. So, what is that question that such a one can ask himself to get the goal done at the end of 2021?
The first thing I would tell you is that you have to be really clear on the difference between being committed and being convicted, right? Because people will say, "Well, I'm committed to this goal," but think about it. People decommit, Ike, all the time. They say,
True.
"I'm committed to this marriage for life," until the day they're not, right?
Yeah.
Or "I'm committed to losing this 20 pounds," and then it becomes, well, maybe next Monday or next month or next year, and it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But when you're convicted, you don't rest until you get it done. And you understand that your conviction and your convenience and your comfort, they don't live on the same block. They're not even in the same zip code. You got to be willing to get out of your comfort zone and be convicted to get to that goal. So your goal of there's several tools that I would have to give. If you and I were working together, there's several tools I would put into place to help you get to
Okay.
that goal more easily and more quickly. But if you're just asking from an empowering question perspective, one of the first things you could ask every day is, what one thing that I didn't do last year can I implement this year to accelerate my growth? You're asking God in the universe, show me something I've never done before. I'm open. But you're only looking for one thing. You want to be specific. You can't be vague. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it
Right?
does. It does, yeah, because I think it has to do with opening up of the mind. I've done several conversations here where someone talked about meditation. So can having morning or evening or anytime meditation has it having to do with this?
Not from my perspective. There might be somebody who's a master at meditation who could take, I could teach them what I know and what I do, and with my secret sauce, and they can maybe work that into their meditation. I'm not real sure. I'm going to be very transparent and say meditation is not a strength of mine. I wake up early in the morning and I get out of bed raring to go. My brain is already engaged. Could I benefit? Probably from some meditation. My meditation is more about going. I keep telling you every time about the beautiful weather here. I go for walks in nature. That's kind of my meditation time where I try to clear my mind. Um, and to be candid, when I'm on those walks in nature, I'm typically having my conversation with my God, and I will ask empowering questions, or I will have created empowered statements for myself that I want to own. And what I mean by that is that often to go from where we are to where we want to be, sometimes the leap is too big in our brain. Oh, that'll never happen. I'll never do that. That's too far away. I'm not good enough. All this crap comes up. And so we craft empowered statements that we work on with some of my other tools until we own it, because it's actually biblical. God says,
Okay.
call things that aren't as though they are. You must believe, and then you see. So it's the very first foundational piece of work I do with my clients in the area of clarity. I get my
Yeah.
clients clear on who they were created to be so they can let go of that story that's keeping them tied to the past. And then together, we throw an anchor into their future that pulls them forward so they can step up and be all they were created to be. And that's a big piece in them achieving the successes that they achieve.
Wow. So, I just want you to be talking on and on and on and on. But yeah, so because I know a lot of guys will come around to listen to this podcasts or video casts either on YouTube or our Facebook channel. If they come up with any question, I'm sure I'm going to let you know. Okay, I have a question. Okay, there's a question here.
Sarah,
So yeah, so you say to have an empowered mind, you have to be goal specific. Is that right?
that's not exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying
Okay.
if you have a goal, the questions, these empowered statements that you're then going to craft your empowering questions from, yes, they have to be specific. The universe doesn't understand vague. It just doesn't understand vague. It's the same thing. One of the things I teach my clients is the art of celebration. I mean, I'm giving your people tens of thousands of dollars of free coaching here. The art of celebration is so critical, and you have to celebrate in the moment. I had a client, she texted me, this is a couple of years ago, and she had this big result, and she was really excited. And I texted her back and I said, did you celebrate? And she says, oh, I'm going to celebrate over Thanksgiving. I'm like, what? That's 2 weeks away. God and the universe aren't even going to know what you're talking about,
Mm,
right? So you've got to celebrate in the moment. So yes, your questions have to be specific. If I said, what one thing can I say? That's so vague. But if I
okay,
said,
yeah.
what one thing can I say to this prospect to get them to move forward with me excitedly today? That's an empowered question. It's specific, it has a specific goal embedded in it, and it has a specific time frame embedded in it. Does that mean that I'm always going to get the answer today? No. That's why you craft them and you put them out there several times a day. Sometimes it takes several days. Sometimes it takes several weeks, right? But you continue doing the work. Does that help you, Sarah? Let me know.
I'm sure. I'm sure. I think something else came to my mind now. I used to have a friend um, who has this issue of making up his mind towards a decision. So, if I need to talk to such a person, or if he's listening, what do you think could be the questions to ask to make a decision, as in leaving a work, or not going, or taking a new project, or starting a new business? If this person can take 1, 2, 3 months, just ruminate on just one step to take, what do I tell such person in terms of asking and empowering a question on the right decision to take?
There's several. Let me make sure I understand. You're trying to get a client of yours to make a decision to move forward. And
Yes.
you want an empowering question to help him do that, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
You could craft it several ways. You could say, what one thing would have to happen for you to move forward today with this decision? What one thing? And then you go quiet. You go quiet. They have to think, they're going to have to come up with an answer. Remember, empowering questions, they're never yes or no questions because they're about opening up possibility. So you're going to help him get curious. Well, what one thing would have to happen? He might say, I don't know. And then I want you to go, okay, so you don't know. And then I want you to change the tone of your voice. And I want you to kind of grin and change your behavior a little bit and go, but if you did know, what would you say? Because now you're making it a game. I don't know is often just a defense mechanism. I had a prospective client sitting in front of me one time, and she said, I don't know. And I said, okay, I understand you don't know, but what one thing? And I asked her again. And she said, I don't know. And she did this 3 or 4 times. And then I just did exactly what I told you. I said, okay, I get it. You don't know. But if you did know, what would you say? Ike, she gave me 9 things I wrote down after that. It broke through that barrier because now it's, well, if I did know, so it becomes a game. So I'm not really attached to it. Make sense?
Makes sense. Yeah, it's okay. I just checked our time that we have gone past our time. But okay, she responded yes. The question she asked, she said yes. So she's
glad
cool
I could help you. Glad I could help you,
Yeah.
Sarah. If you want to learn more, Sarah, come over and join me in my Facebook group. It's the Year with No Fear. Ike, I'll send you the link.
Okay.
We're gonna be talking a lot about stepping out of your fear, and empowering questions is one way you can do that. Just
Okay.
come over and connect.
Yeah. Carol Boston, one last word from your heart. One last word. What you want to share with our viewers there? So go ahead, let's listen.
I would say the most important thing I would share with you today is that take the next step. You want to change your outcomes? You got to change your behavior. So all you got to do is take the next step, because God only gave us a lamplight for our feet, because all we got to do is take the next step. It's about getting into action. And remember that anything worth doing, anything is worth doing poorly the first time, and then you get better.
I like that. Anything worth doing is worth doing poorly for the first time.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you. And I hope to have you here over and over 2021. We're going to do a lot. Yeah.
I don't know. I may have to start charging you, Ike. I'm giving away a lot of golden nuggets here.
I don't mind. I'll pay you. I don't mind. Thank you very much to everybody over there. I want to thank you for your time, for having to be in this show. Carol, thank you once again. So we'll talk. So everybody, thank you for being here. We'll be around on Saturday, Sunday. Just go to this channel and you will have Ike having ALOUD with Iyke once again. So have a good night or good morning or good afternoon or good evening. So see you next time. Bye bye. Yeah.